Hi there. So today I'm going to talk to you about pet portrait commissions. As an artist, I do get asked to draw people's pets, horses as well, and even sometimes people's children, which is always a great privilege as well. So I think when you're being asked by somebody to draw something specific and something that is very special to them, that they have a really deep and emotional connection to, it's a real privilege as an artist to be asked to do that. But also, there can be quite a lot of pressure because they have a very specific idea about how their pets or their horse or even their child, obviously, how they look to them. And so to capture that special connection, that emotional connection in a portrait is the one thing that makes portrait commissions very different to a photograph. A photograph is just a photograph. A drawing is something of the artist that goes into that. So for me, it's really important to make sure that when I am drawing something that has an emotional connection to somebody, that I get as much information from that person as possible. So I always ask for lots and lots of photographs, and that is really important because different light can make hair, eye colour look very different. With animals, particularly at different times of year with different coat textures. So some animals can have a summer or a winter coat, and horses particularly, that can be relevant too. Some animals can be older and the person might want you to draw a portrait of that animal when it was younger because that's the happiest and most connected time that they feel, that they wanted that animal to look alive and in its youth. So and also when it's a portrait of an animal that has passed, that can be doubly hard because you are also working on that person's memory and what their perception of that animal looked like to them. So I always ask lots of questions about what their animal was like, and also I want to know a little bit about their character, because I think that that is really important, because then I start to get an idea of if they were a bit cheeky or if they were playful or if they were a bit more thoughtful or a bit shy, and I can hopefully communicate that in the portrait as I'm drawing it. So I always ask for lots of photographs from different angles as well, because very often what makes a great photograph does not make a great portrait. And people have sent me pictures before and they've been the most beautiful photographs, but actually don't translate into a great drawing. And as an artist, that's your job to look at that and to be able to see how you're going to translate that into a work of art rather than it just being a carbon copy of a photograph. I always ask that the photographs that I use are their own photographs, and if they have used a professional photographer to take those photos, then I need written permission from the professional photographer, because I don't want to be breaching anyone's copyright, and I think that that's really important as creative people, that we respect one another within our area. And so always ask for lots and lots of photographs. I always also ask for photographs to be taken at eye level, and I'll show you some examples of this in the kind of photographs that I would use. So photographs like this are not great because they are looking down on an animal, or you're going to get distorted planes of that animal's face. Animals that sometimes quirky photos can work really well if you've got an animal with a great nose or something like that and you want to really make that animal look very characterful. Sometimes that can work, but you have to be quite skillful when you do those sort of more quirky photographs. I tend to draw more classic photographs. I like photos either directly from the front or directly from the side, particularly if the animal's got a really nice ear or it's got some really nice markings or something like that. I want to capture that particularly in the photograph. Some examples of photos that I wouldn't use are where animals look a bit scared. And sometimes animals do look scared in photos because when you're pointing a camera at an animal, it's like a big eye to an animal. So if you're pointing a big lens into an animal's face, it can kind of look a little bit startled. Same with an iPhone or any smartphone. If you're holding something in front of an animal, they can sort of be backing away from it and looking a bit scared. So I'm always saying to people, try and take the photograph from a reasonable distance when the animal's happy. Ideally get somebody else holding a treat so that the animal's focusing on the treat and the person rather than being worried about the camera, and get your animal used to having those photographs taken. Good light, good natural daylight is also really important in getting good photos for good photo references, because if you've got a lot of shadow or if you've got a lot of overexposure with the sunlight, then you're not going to get the true colour of the animal's fur. And also, if you have taken pictures of an animal inside. I like to take my own photos where possible, but it's not always possible, especially if somebody lives hundreds of miles away or in another country. I mean, it'd be great. I wouldn't mind that. But, realistically, it's not possible to be able to go and take photos of every single pet that you want to draw. So when you have got all your photographs together, and you're looking about the kind of composition that you're going to do, I always like to talk to the owner and get some idea of what they're expecting and what kind of composition they would like. And sometimes I might send mock-ups as well, particularly if it's a multi-pet portrait where you've got several different pets and I want to get them, looking in certain directions with each other so that there's a bit of a communication and a bond with those particular animals. But it is really important that you have that buy-in from the owner as well, because they're the customer, they're the client, they're the ones that are going to be paying you, and you want them to be happy with what you're producing. I also would ask them to clarify which coat colour out of a series of photographs that you're working from, to say which one most closely resembles your pet. Because as I say, even a brown dog, even a black dog can look different in different lights. So you want to get exactly as near to the original as you possibly can. So for me, I always then start the portrait. I usually have an idea of a timeline of how it's going to go, and I'd like to send some progress pictures to the customer if they want them. Not everybody does. Not everybody wants to know how the magic happens behind the scenes. They just want the ta-da moment and be surprised. But also if the commission is a surprise, so if it's a birthday present or if it's a gift for somebody, I wouldn't share it on any sort of social media, even if they weren't looking at social media and they weren't sort of social media savvy. I wouldn't put it on social media just in case somebody saw it and showed them it and said, "Oh, this looks like your dog," or whatever. I wouldn't do that, and I always get their permission to share it after as well, even though I own the copyright to the artwork that I have produced. I value that, especially if it is somebody's child or a person. I would never ever share that on social media without the express permission of the parents, or if the child is of age, then their permission too, because I want to make sure that they are comfortable with that, with their image being out there. But I think it is always a great honour to be able to share the work that you've done. I just think it's the best thing in the world to be able to share something that somebody has been really happy with. And then it's great when you get the feedback as well and people tell you that they hopefully are really happy with what you've done. So I would say that if you are doing any sort of commissions for people, it's always good to start with friends and family and get their feedback. Usually they'll be very honest with you, which is great. And take that as a learning curve as well. So sometimes you might look at things and think it looks okay, and somebody might look at it and go, nah, that doesn't look right. And take that, that's their prerogative. You need to change it. Very often I will flip an image in a mirror to just compare it with the photograph sometimes. But also, and I would say this is quite an important thing in mirror images, if you are, say you've got a dog and you want it to look in a different direction and you flip that image, you might change the entire shape of that, how that dog looks, because mirror images are somehow, they don't work, they don't capture that sort of character. They're good for informing things like tonal values and shapes and things like that, but the magic of the animal sometimes gets lost with a mirror image. So I definitely probably wouldn't draw a mirror image of an animal. I would only use it just to look at the tonal values and the shapes and things like that. So I would do a line drawing first. If I were doing it on pastel mats, I do line drawing, and then I transfer the line drawing to the pastel mat, because pastel mat's very unforgiving of rubbing out lines, especially if there's no background. And if you are doing a background, make sure that the background that you're doing matches the colour palette of the animal that you're drawing. So if the animal has been taken, a photograph of that animal has been taken, say, in a green field, and the client wants blue sky around it, that will change your colours and your shadows, because the shadows that you'll be drawing will have green tints to them, and that will look odd if you put a blue background on it without altering that. So always be aware of how a background can affect the overall picture that you're drawing, and if they want a background at all. Some people don't. So they're my top tips for drawing portraits and pet portrait commissions, and I will be sharing some more information and some top tips along the way with that. If you found this video helpful, and if you've got any questions, then just pop them in the comments, and I'll always try to answer them. And yeah, enjoy, and I hope you get lots of commissions. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.